Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Today is just me and Fish, and
What's up?
We are waiting for our lovely two guests, Richard. For those who actually follow all the experience shows, the die-hard fans, you might know him for the Tuesday show, and his wonderful artist, I think Les. Yeah, Les. So we're just waiting on them to show up. Until then, we're gonna just kind of like talk a little bit, hopefully. So, Fish,
Yes,
how's
ma'am.
how's your campaign?
It has been a roller coaster. It's kind of been a kick in the teeth the
Yeah.
last week. Had one of those lovely guys that likes to come in and make big pledges and then just pull it out later on.
Yeah.
Come through, and he pledged like $300 to start with
Okay.
and got me over the goal line.
Yeah.
But I was suspicious because when somebody that you haven't met yet in the indie comic scene drops that kind of money,
Yeah.
I was suspicious. But I was like, hey, maybe it's a new, whale that I haven't met yet or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make a big deal yet. Just keep an eye on it. He raised it up to like $650, and then he pulled it out.
Oh,
And
that
so
hurt.
my campaign dropped all the way back down to just over the goal line, and has pretty much stayed there since.
How many days do we have left?
3 days, I think. It ends
right.
on like Monday morning.
You know what? Let's Is it okay, Kyle, if we pull up Mr. Fish's campaign Kickstarter?
Yeah,
Let's,
go MrFish.com. Will take you right
yeah.
there.
Let's promote you. 3 days left. Come on. And for those who's curious, for the diehard Mel lovers, Mel is under the weather. He's sick.
It is. My campaign is for the Green Zone series. Issue 4 is almost finished, and it's an amazing series. Excuse me. I'm still getting over COVID too, which has been a lot of fun trying to do a campaign when I got COVID right at the beginning of it.
Yeah, I remember you had COVID 2 weeks ago, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still fighting off the cough, which makes it a little bit hard to talk at times. I'm gonna have to break out the cough drop here, but so yeah, that has been extra fun on trying to pitch a campaign when I can't talk.
Are you mostly like in bed? Just
Oh no, I'm working. I'm just working really slow now.
it's gonna cause a burnout. That's really bad. If you
Well, I mean, like I work from my recliner. It's not like I'm digging ditches.
Okay.
So, I'm still resting a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sitting in my recliner and getting plenty of fluids.
You know what's interesting? I noticed about your cover. It's all like they're getting what do you call those shots from the police?
Oh yeah, they're like mug
Mugshots?
shots.
Yeah, mugshots. All of
I
them are
wanted to
magical.
do a little bit of a misdirect with the first one and make you think that they're criminals. And
Yeah,
but they have to wear these jumpsuits to get on the city buses
yeah,
because they don't want to just pick up any scary genome out of the blocks and drive them around to places. So you got to wear a uniform to get on, and then you get to work and you change into your to your work uniform. But I liked sticking with the mugshot look, and it gives you a little bit more information about them and how tall they are and stuff. And it's fun. I actually did a I added a new variant cover to the campaign that matches the green stripe across the top from when the earlier issues were published by Freestyle Comics.
yeah.
So if you've got the early issues from before when we were with Freestyle Comics, you can get one with the green stripe across the top and the mugshot layout, and it'll match all the other books. Or you can get the new cover, whichever one you want. Or you can get the crossover variant cover with Ace Blade on it because Danny J. Quick's running his Ace Blade campaign for issue 9 right now. But yeah, there's a campaign.
Beautiful.
It's doing good. Like there's the new cover that we just released with the sergeant that's over the Green Zone unit
What?
that we
Okay.
released when we hit goal.
I'm sorry, but is the green zone, isn't it like protect nature? Is that kind of thing?
Well, in our world, a green zone is a safe zone. Like in a military zone, it would be a safe spot. But in this world, the green zones are where they shove mutants. It's like concentration camps for mutants. It's where they can go to be safe, kind of like reservations for Native Americans. Like it's where they shoved them to forget about them. And anybody that's a mutant has to have a green stripe on their uniforms, like they do on the covers of the books, so that you can tell that they're mutants. So that's where the green comes from, is they all have to wear green and stuff to so you can tell. Sometimes people are giant lizard monsters and it's easy to tell they're a mutant. Sometimes they're like Danny Kim in the front there and they're just a
Yeah,
Korean kid and
yeah,
you can't see that he's a mutant. So
yeah.
you got to have a green stripe on his uniform so he can't, sneak by, because we have to know these things, because, what
Ah,
if he got out and, who knows what could happen? They're all supervillains just waiting to happen as far as the humans are concerned. So lots of racism and stuff. Lots, honestly, it's kind of become like a real life documentary, the worst the world's gotten
no.
since I started this series. It was all fantasy that you could be illegal just to be who you are, and they would like round you up and put you into camps.
Yeah.
But now it's become a historical documentary, and
So bad.
we'll see how it goes. But
Oh,
like in this world, if you want to get your citizenship and move out of the green zones, you have to prove you're not a threat to humanity. You're not a supervillain waiting to happen. So if you can make it as a civil servant for 5 years, you can
yeah.
get your green card and move out. So this is following a group of new
Mm,
recruits on the police force on their first shift. And the
mm,
first 4 issue arc is just getting through their first shift. And by the end of book one, one of the teams of cops is getting arrested by human cops and nearly got shot. By the end of issue 2, the police station has been blown up in a terrorist attack. And by the end of issue 3, one of the training officers drops to the ground, could be dead. Uh, People have been pulled out of the fire. Virgil, the big lizard guy, is all burned up. So in issue 4, they're all being rushed to the hospital, and we see who lives and who dies and find out more about what's going on in this world and who's behind all the chaos and all kinds
okay.
of cool stuff. And we
Yes.
get a character introduced in issue 4 that the wonderful Mog had an amazing input on and
Oh.
absolutely changed the course of all the books from here on out because of her amazing input on this
Ah,
character. um, I reached out to her to just ask, like, what would her mom do in this situation in
Yeah.
issue 4? And when she told me, that just changed everything. And it is literally the reason I have been crying working on this book so much. Like, I have been weeping working on these pages because they're so emotional. And I had to add in extra pages to the book now just to give her more room to show who she really is now because of your input. So thank you very, very much. You're going to
Yeah.
get, like, special thanks on the inside cover and
Wow,
stuff.
this
Like,
I don't know. This it. I think you're like over exaggerating, but thank you so much for
oh
seeing the
no, like,
comment.
I mean,
But
but
yeah,
it's the way these things go sometimes. Like, sometimes you put somebody in just to fill a role, just to get, just to be a side character in somebody else's story, and then all of a sudden they take on a life of their own and become
wow.
super, super interesting. And
Um, sorry, Kyle, can you go back to the original? Is that an original that you're selling for a
oh
hundred
yeah,
dollars each? Or no?
yeah, I've got some original art on there. Two of those are variant covers that I did for issues 2 and 3. Like, one's a Miami Vice variant
Yeah.
cover, and the other is like a homage to Police Academy 2 for issue 2.
But
And
that cover, the Barbarian is so dope.
oh yeah, that was the Barbarian variant cover from the Mighty Caw, and it I drew that on a live stream and just had people shouting out like their favorite barbarians and stuff. So we've got everybody from the old D&D cartoons to He-Man and Conan and Gru and Cerebus and Black Star, and I mean, everybody's in there.
Yeah, is that the pig face art? I forgot his name. Art.
The Aardvark,
Yeah,
yeah,
Aardvark.
Cerebus, yeah.
Wow.
And
Oh yeah,
like
you
the
did mention
Mighty
that. Yeah.
Mightor's in there.
Yeah. Damn, that's like pretty obscure, but also retro popular. Nice.
hmm
That that drawing, is that for real? The castle and everything?
Oh yeah,
That's an
yeah.
OG because I thought you work in you work,
Digitally,
yeah.
I do mostly. That I mean, I used to work traditionally, but actually, because of my Tourette syndrome and my disability, I got a laptop to start drawing back when I like could barely walk, and so now that I'm doing better and I'm more steady, I can do more traditional art like I do on the show here. But I've gotten so used to the digital and it's so fast that I do most of my work there, but for fun, I did this short story for my anthology book that I do traditionally, and I really liked it. Like, I kind of like the limitations. Like, I can't get lost in the zoom and just get way down deep in putting details in somebody's eye that you're never going to see.
Yeah, that's the one drawback of working digital, I noticed. You end up doing more detail work, which is
Oh
the
man,
irony. It's supposed to save you time, but sometimes it doesn't.
I
It's
that's
bizarre.
one reason that I don't drop my brush very small. So, like, when I zoom in too far, I have trouble making the line small enough because my keep my brush at like 30 points. So that
That's
keeps me
pretty
from getting
fast.
too far. I'll still get way down there sometimes,
Yeah.
but like, I have spent hours putting shadows under everybody's eyelids just to zoom out and realize you could barely even see their eyes.
Oh
And so,
my
like, I've
gosh.
I've had to start putting things in practice so that I don't do that as much. And you can't do that with traditional. But then also, like, if my hand twitches because of my Tourette's,
Yeah.
well, then that line's on the page, and I've either got to like figure out how to work it in, or work around it or something. So
You
it
know,
has its pluses and its minuses.
I'm glad that you actually have these amazing pages, and it's only 150.
Yeah.
Let me just like read some of the comments here. Um, let's see. What's the can't really where is it then? Okay, so Mr. Nope said he backed your Kickstarter and even an OG page.
Oh,
So thank you,
awesome!
Mr. Nope. You're amazing.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. I
And
appreciate that.
yeah. Steve Vendetta said, Mog, is it true that you and Mel really shook things up after your arrival in Vancouver? What does that mean,
Hello.
shook things up? Oh, hey! Hey, Liz. So,
Hey,
Howdy, y'all.
so, where do you live? What state are you at?
I am in the southwestern tip of Kentucky.
No wonder.
Kentucky.
Okay.
Yep, I'm in Central Time Zone, same as Chicago.
Me too.
Oh,
There's not a whole lot of us in the Central Time Zone in
no, there's
the
not.
comics world.
Yeah. So
Well,
apparently,
there's more than you'd think, actually. just because of Metropolis, Illinois.
oh man, I miss Illinois. I used to live there. You
Mm.
know, so apparently, guys, the reason why Liz was late, he wasn't technically late. He was here at 7 p.m. his time. So there was a mix-up in communication. I think
Yeah.
Richard's fault. It's Richard's fault. So Richard told Liz that
It's
at 7 p.m. our
it's
time,
usually
dude.
Rich's fault.
Everything's Richard's fault because he's not here. We can do that, right?
Yeah. No, we can dogpile on Rich tonight.
Yeah, Richard's not here.
Piss off, Rich. and they caught me after dinner, so I have a glass of wine in me, which these days makes me a little more fun than normal. So
Wow. Oh, you're so tame. Wine? Oh my gosh.
yeah, well, see, I that's about as heavy as I can drink these days, which really sucks
Oh
because
man.
I am an Eastern Kentucky native, which is a different. I live in Western Kentucky, but Eastern Kentucky and Western Kentucky are two very different
Yeah.
things. So I'm like, I got friends in the business who've nicknamed me the Appalachian Iron Man because I literally where I come from is like the bowels of Appalachia. I didn't have indoor plumbing till I was 11 years old.
That's
So
awesome. That sounds like my mom.
if
Like-
you say you're from like the Appalachian place, it means it's very outdated place.
Appalachian the Appalachian mountain chain runs from the upper part of western Pennsylvania all the way down through eastern Ohio, western West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, part of Virginia, goes all the way down to Georgia.
I think
There's a
even
real famous thing called the Appalachian Trail that people like to hike. It's like a 2,000-mile trail or some crap. But yeah, growing up in Appalachia, you're like there's different names for sections of it. Where I'm from, they call holler country. So hollow. Well, we say holler.
okay.
And so where I grew up, yeah, we didn't have. I didn't have running water until I was 11, and didn't have the house that I was in when I was a little kid had electricity in like 2 rooms.
What happened at 11 that made such a change?
My grandfather died and left his house to my father. So my grandfather had a better house and some land, and so our life improved when he died and left that to us. And literally, what was better about his house than the one we had is that he had built a indoor outhouse. So, and there was still an outhouse behind that house just in case somebody needed to go.
Just in case two needed to go at the same time.
But like the better
That's
house,
living in high cotton right there. You got two.
yeah, the better house with the indoor outhouse, that bathroom didn't have. There was no bath. There was no bath, no shower in there. You washed in the sink, or you went outside and did a tree shower. And
You didn't have like the tub, the metal tub,
yeah,
big-
we
and then you
would
pour
use
hot water.
a big metal foot tub
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
to pour water in that and take a bath in. It's when I was a little kid. And so like as soon as my dad got that house, I remember it like it was yesterday, us putting in a stand-up shower into that bathroom. And that was like, to them, that was high living.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Wow, was this like what? 80s?
that
90s?
was when
When
I
you
was
were
11,
11?
that would have been 1983.
Oh my God, 80s. You're not talking like in the 60s.
No,
This is like
Oh
really
no.
modern 80s.
yeah,
And you
no.
were
I mean,
I took my kids back at one point when they were teenagers because they didn't believe me, and I
yeah, yeah.
showed them the house I was in, and there's still a the smokehouse is outside where we stored our meat and
Yeah.
cured our meat. There's a cellar built into the hillside that's where we stored all of our cool and cold stuff. Um, and I showed the kids where I worked. Like I had to work on the farm from age 5 till 18. So I was like 5 years old. They call it dropping sticks, walking tobacco fields, dropping sticks for people to use in tobacco. And so, yeah, it's a wild upbringing. My kids are like, Dad, when you were a kid, they're like, this is like something out of the late 1800s. I'm like, yeah,
Okay,
pretty accurate.
so segueing from that, is that why your title says there, Les L. Garner, artist, Apocalypse Girl and Homestead? Is it because
Those
of
are
all
two of
the
the other
upbringing?
two of
Homestead?
the other books that I've done. Yeah, Apocalypse Girl was mine.
Yeah.
I'm the writer, penciler, inker, letterer, colorist, and cover painter on it. And there's collectibles that I sculpted. So
I like you, man after my own heart.
it's all of it. And Apocalypse Girl is a post-apocalyptic book about a girl named Anna who loses her father and then has to basically decide how much of the world she's going to cope with based on her own desires or impulses versus his teachings. And
Why is she like a psychopath?
no, but
Okay.
she's wildly powerful and has no clue about any of it because
Uh,
he's kept her secluded her whole life. She doesn't even
yeah.
know how old she is.
Oh my
He's
God.
kept her secluded and has taught her that if anything ever happens to him, one, he's always told her if anything ever happened to him, it would it was intentional. Somebody meant for it to happen. And if anything ever happened to him, she had no idea how old he is. So that their ages are a big thing.
Hmm.
So like he's actually about 100 years old when the story takes place. And she's probably about 50,
Is
maybe
there
75, but she thinks she's about 17. There is no concept of time in her world.
is it because like people with ADD, they don't have concept of time? Like she really
Well,
doesn't have concept of time, or it's like the days are really literally slower. Like what's going on?
the world of Apocalypse Girl is this burned out husk, and there's just like I've lived in places where you don't have clocks, where you don't have things to tell you time. And trust me, inside of about a month, you forget how many days have gone by. You will forget real quick.
What's it like? Is it like, do you go crazy or you don't care?
Some people, I think if you took somebody who is used to modern living and dropped them into that, they'd go batshit crazy inside of about a month. It would freak them out. Like for
'Cause you
me,
have no
I kind of
sense.
grew up like that. And like now, of course, I left all that and I moved. I've lived in major cities and blah, 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 all that kind of crap. And I was gone from where I grew up for 25 years and wanted to go home the entire time. The only reason I ever left is because this is funny, and this relates to all of this.
Yeah.
As a kid, the whole reason I do comic books is as a little kid, I had to milk cows.
Yeah.
And in the barn, we had a stack of old, torn up comic books. And it wasn't until I was about 9 that we got some, modern like milking equipment that they could, put the little thing on them and hang it there.
Yeah.
So we had to do it by hand. And
Yeah,
I would milk cows by hand. Well, if you never milked a cow, it's boring as hell.
Yeah.
And I would sit there with a cow's udder in my hand and a comic book on my knee.
Oh.
And I was like, I was raised in a really religious household, and they were like, I was able to read by the time I was 3.5, 4 years old.
Because of your education, the religion?
Um, I think because of my dad. Like, he would just, when he'd get home from doing jobs and things he would do, like, he wasn't a farmer. He would go out and haul gravel and water throughout the area for people. That was his job. And then he'd get home at night and he would sit with me, either if the electricity was working by the one lamp we had, or he'd sit with me by a coal oil lamp and read.
Oh my God.
He'd sit with me by lamplight and read to me. And I just picked it up like it was just a thing. And like, the family used to have this parlor trick they'd do with me when I was like 4 or 5 years old, where they thought it was just the grandest thing in the world to like randomly crack open a Webster's dictionary and dare me to read it. And I just would read the whole page. So I was reading at this crazy early level. Well, with that came comic books, because I had these comic books in the barn. So very early on, it seemed like a complete freaking no-brainer to me that, of course, somebody had to make these. You know, it's like when the other little kids were playing, like, there weren't many other kids around, but every once in a while, if I was around other kids, little boys would be, you know, I'm Batman, I'm Superman, I'm a Hulk, or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm Jack Kirby. I'm Jimmy O'Neill. And they're like, who's that? I'm like, I made you. I mean, like, 5-year-old me would literally be like, yeah, I win because I made you.
That's my man right there.
You know, sorry, Liz. I think there are some questions here.
Yeah.
And just letting you know, because you came late in the show, every
That's all
30
right.
minutes we had to take a break. So just close to break time, but let's kind of answer some questions here. Kenneth say, is there a giveaway for tonight? No, I'm sorry, my man, not tonight. And some of the comments, I think Sarah White was saying something really interesting. The Appalachian Mountains are so old that they formed before the continents split apart.
Yep.
The most recent times, the Scottish Highlands are technically the same mountain range as the Appalachian. Wow.
And ironically, the history of the people that I come from is the Scots-Irish, who the early colonials, like pre-America colonials, forced the Scots-Irish who came over here. They forced them at that time what they considered West,
Yeah.
thinking that it was so treacherous it would kill them. They forced the Scots-Irish into Appalachia basically because they're like, yeah, we don't want you here, so you're going out there where you can deal with the frontier and the Indians. And what they didn't count on is that the Scots-Irish, I mean, these are the Scots-Irish, they got here and they were like, oh, it's just like home. Yeah, I mean, it really was. So they just dug in, and now like there's a look that I have about me that when you look at people throughout Appalachia, you can tell Appalachian people. We know each other on sight. We don't even have to speak. There's a look. And it's a very Scots-Irish thing. Like my genetics are Scottish, Irish, Nordic, and African American.
Is it because it's kind of like a inbreeding? I mean, I don't mean in a bad way. Like, it's just very secluded, so they only like interacted with each other, so there was no outsiders bloodline coming
there
in?
was just so many of them shoved out here that it was just like, oh, okay, here we are, and that was that.
So you can just like tell without them ever saying, like, oh, you're from.
Well, it's like Scotsman, no Scotsman, you know.
They do.
I mean, they a lot of them do. Yeah, I've known a lot of friends from Scotland who, when they run into Scottish people, there's a general look to the brow structure, the noses. There's a whole look that happens. I mean, Scottish is an ethnicity, just like Irish is, just like Norse is. I mean, it's like everybody's got a look to them. And
That's no different than any people group. You put them alone by themselves long enough, they'll get their own distinct look, like Japan or
like Japan, Korean, all kinds.
Alaska or wherever.
Totally.
You know.
I get what you mean. Like now I'm associating with all of that. Anyway,
So-
you know what, guys? Let's take a break. And Les, you're such an interesting guy. I can't wait to talk to you again.
I'm just professionally weird, is all.
All right, let's take a break and come back in a few.
Go.
The limit is the sky with no glass ceiling. But if the shoe fits, feel free to walk up in it. You can catch me in the sky with no flight attendants, or either in the coupe, but the roof is not attended. I don't look back, I don't look back, I don't look back, I don't look back. I just go forward, I just go forward, I just go forward, I just go forward. I don't hear that, I don't hear that, I don't hear that, I don't hear that. I just ignore it, I just ignore it, I just ignore it, I just ignore it. Rap hitting, I button up Benjamin. I'm not like them, my coffers cut different. For those that are listening, please know that I never backpedal, nah, never that. I don't look back, I don't look back, I don't look back, I don't look back. I just go forward, I just go forward, I just go forward, I just go forward. I don't hear that, I don't hear that, I don't hear that, I don't hear that. I just ignore it, I just ignore it, I just ignore it, I just ignore it. I don't look back, I don't look back, I don't look back.
Boring old Tuesday.
Kick it! Anyway, let's get to it.
Henri Copen scours collections and comic shops to bring you the biggest deals on beautiful comics.
I'm very eager to sell these books.
Plus, he smashes those other boring sales shows. Henri's got fire, excitement, personality, key books, Momo books.
Pixie! Momo books for ya.
A cute dog. Weird accents.
69, bro!
A wheel of skid bark?
We do wheel spins at the end of every show.
You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll score huge bargains.
That is Haktua magic right there, all right?
Kicking it with Henri. Tuesday nights. Part of the experience.
Did you know that Arthur, King of the Britons, in Monty Python and the Holy Grail was played by a famous Graham? Check out another famous Graham by following our Instagram.
All right. Let me just kind of read through the comments a bit. Surprisingly, Kyle, he said he's a fellow descendant of the Appalachia. So it's true what Les says. We all can recognize each other across the room.
It's funny. There's a saying that we have too, because people mispronounce it all the time. Which you got it right. I'm impressed. A lot of people say Appalachia, and down home they'll look at you and say, it's Appalachia. Like you say Appalachia, we'll throw an apple at you.
Oh, Appalachia. They throw an apple actually,
No, it's just a funny thing they say, but outsiders don't know what to think, so it's always funny.
I think I get you because I'm from the Far East, right? So they say the comics, the Americans here, they say manga, and that drives me nuts. But it's manga. It's just straight, just manga. Like what the heck? I just feel so weird when they say that. So that's how much you must feel.
I speak a cursory amount of Japanese, so I did over 25 years in Shotokan karate.
Wow, Shotokan, interesting.
Yes,
that's like
Shotokan.
A very old style. That's really cool.
Straight from
Appalachia?
Funakoshi Gichin.
Wow.
Yes, I believe it was the phrase karate was coined by that man in about 1917, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, before that it was Tote, Chinese hand, because he was Okinawan, and that's a rabbit hole I will go down. Like
Yeah.
I have lived and breathed Shotokan karate for a very long time. It's like one of the great passions of my life.
Okay, before we get into Shotokan, Mr. Fish, I'm so sorry. I forgot the previous comments in our group chat. Do you still want to maybe offer for the people a giveaway? 'Cause I don't.
Absolutely.
Okay, so everybody, let's do is it hashtag green zone?
Yeah.
So you like to give away one issue, the first issue of Green Zone?
Yeah, we'll give away the first issue, and the Kickstarter's going live. So if you want to get the rest of them, you can pick them up now.
Please, you know how many more you had to how much more you have to meet the goal?
Oh, we're at goal. Like once that guy dropped that 650 pledge,
nice.
We dropped down. Oh no, he pledged it and then took it away. Is one of those guys, and so that took us all the way back down to goal again. But now I haven't checked since we've been on the show, but we were like $30 above goal. So
come on, guys, let's make that 3,000. 1K a day. Come on, so Fish can do his one-man job. Actually,
hey, I'll take it, man. I would rather be doing my own books full time than doing everybody else's books full time.
Yeah, and I think that somebody says, oh, Kyle said his grandparents are from the Southeast
Ohio. Yeah, Southeast Ohio's Appalachia. It's probably I'm guessing he's probably somewhere between Chillicothe and I forget what that town is, right across the river from Ashland. But yeah, I know that area quite well. There's actually a gentleman up that way who I trained with in karate for a very long time, who I owe him a bottle of bourbon right now.
You are an interesting cat.
I know, you're really interesting. You know, Richard, it's okay. Richard again.
We love Rich, but he's a little turd. I like messing with Rich.
Okay, so anyway, actually, Stevie, I missed this. So sorry, Stevie. He asked you a question, Fish. Like, Fish, are you moonlighting tonight as a renewal by Anderson, Windows salesman? I don't know what that means, but okay, I think it's because you were drawing a window. And you know what, Kyle? Actually, you talked about the Apocalypse Girl.
Yeah, Apocalypse Girl.
I mean, you should show us like some of the covers or art if you have of that.
Let me reach over here and pull some stuff up because I've got plenty to show of all kinds of stuff.
Awesome.
Let me go ahead and show you some of Angel Hunter, because that's what Rich is like. Les, I need you to go in there. I can't be there tonight. We need to promote Angel Hunter. I'm like, okay, Rich, we'll promote Angel Hunter.
But also,
Homestead is a dope book.
Let's see.
That's your ink.
This is some of the stuff from Angel Hunter.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm just going to keep it in story mode there. I work out of Clip Studio mostly.
Oh,
that
yeah, all of us.
Best.
Yeah, Clip
all three of us.
Clip Studio. Can I cuss on here? Clip Studio is the shit. I love it.
It is. I have yet to see a program that is so well designed for illustration.
Clip Studio is going to make me drop all my Adobes. I have no need for Adobe because of Clip Studio.
Mm-hmm.
Adobe can piss off. They're too expensive.
I really, really don't like. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, Les. It's kind of like PG here, so language you have to watch out.
Sorry about that.
Just say turd instead of the S word.
That's all right. I can self censor. It's just I'm normally a foul mouthed little turd anyway. So
oh, me too. I'm terrible. What about you, Fish? I think you're okay. Right?
Well, I have Tourette's, so I can go from one wild end of the spectrum to the other. But
I don't actually have Tourette's, but I'll claim it for convenience sometimes.
Yeah, it's
not as fun as you think.
Les, the hair on the panel on the left side, that is crazy awesome. I just love when I see strands of hair like that. Just makes it look so detailed.
there's a pattern too with this character's hair. The character's name is Shiroi Majo.
Oh, Shiro, the White Witch.
Shiroi. Yeah, she's the
Shiroi
White Witch.
Majo.
Shiroi. And she's one of my two favorite characters in the book. And I have a very specific way of doing her hair. Like if you look a lot of times her hair, you'll see the shape and it'll be all these strands, but there won't be any detail inside the shape.
Yeah, I love that. And a lot of the manga like artists, they do that with the hair. And I love that. And I see that you did that.
That is very like I've been doing that since I started forever ago. And it's something that I didn't know I was borrowing it from Alphonse Mucha, but that's
Mucha.
Yeah, Mucha is, oh my God. Mucha is like my patron saint in some things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love doing that kind of stuff. And this was interesting because I don't normally draw such a manga style. It actually, I almost didn't do this book because I kept telling Rich, I'm like, I don't want to do manga. It's not what I naturally do. And he's like, please do it. Please do it. He's like, you're the guy who needs to do this book. I need you to do this book. I'm like, all right, Rich, fine. I'll do it. Because he knows I can adapt.
What does he like you? Like persona, you guys match? Like
Rich and I have known each other for about, I want to say about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
We actually met because of Apocalypse Girl, which I will see if I can dredge up a little something here.
Show us Apocalypse Girl, man.
Apocalypse Girl is kind of my baby, and like I do all these other books that basically fund my life so that I can eventually get back to Apocalypse Girl.
Preach.
It's kind of funny.
Dude, Les, I don't know why, but when I look at your face, you remind me of that actor who played in Lord of the Rings. God, what's his name?
John Rhys
The
Davies.
brother. Remember the Prince of the Horse? Like,
Carl Urban, Theodred. Why, thank you very much. I'll take that as a high compliment.
Is it because he's also Scottish?
Well, he's from New Zealand, but most everybody in New Zealand, just like everybody in Australia. Here's the thing about these places that the British sent people they didn't want to have around anymore. Most of those people were Irish and Scottish.
Because you're seriously,
Funny thing is, everywhere the British took over, there's a whole lot of Tourette's too.
Are you serious?
India, South Africa, like Australia, there's a whole lot of Tourette's there too.
That's because it's in our genes to just rail against some crappy bunch of garbage.
So we actually didn't mean to rebel. Isn't there one of this part of the mental thing having, was it ADHD or Tourette? What's it called? Something about a rebellious type of thing. I forgot what's it called.
There's some kind of a straight up forgot what it is.
Oppositional defiance disorder.
Oppositional defiance. So
yeah,
they really didn't mean it. It was just genetic. It's just gene, and just because of that, poor dudes, they just get stuck in the worst places.
Well, I love to joke with I've got friends in Australia who I joke with, and I'm like, you guys, I was like, y'all are the ones that they sent because they wanted to throw you in prison. I was like, we are the ones who left because we were so sick of them, we weren't going to put up with it anymore. It was like, we got out before they could throw us in jail.
So we're not criminally inclined. It's just a oppositional defiance that was bred into.
Yeah, I'm not criminally inclined. It's just that your rules suck.
Yeah. Oh, hey, you know how you said you were a religious, very religious background?
Yeah, I grew up in a very religious family, which is has its own ups and downs to it. So.
Do you love your dad?
Oh yeah, it wasn't my dad. My dad was. It was really strange. Well, first off, I was adopted.
Oh.
And the folks who raised me, my dad was gone a lot because he hauled gravel out there, most of the roads are gravel.
Yeah.
And people have guys bring trucks out and put new gravel down.
Yeah.
And he had a truck with a big water tank to go around. When there was a drought, he would go around and fill people's cisterns and wells up with water.
Wow.
And that's what he did for work when I was a kid. So most of the time I was with my foster mother's family, who were dairy and tobacco farmers.
Yeah.
And they were like pillars of the church kind of folks and all that kind of stuff. And they did not like my dad at all, because they would, if one of them tried to get all biblical with him, he would tell them, you know what? And this is how my dad would say, he'd be like, me and Jesus are good. It's me and you that don't work.
I love that comeback. That's the best. Wow.
So, and there were things that I grew up with where because we were out, like, he didn't have any family around, and except my grandfather, who died. And my dad was a very old man. My dad was born in 1919.
What?
My grandfather was born in 1899.
Dang.
Yeah. Fought in World War One.
Dang.
Your dad?
My grandfather survived the trenches of World War One.
So he was
That's
like in his 60s when you were 11 years old.
My father died when I was 17 and he was 72.
Wow.
Yeah. So I always, what puts it in perspective for folks, have you ever heard of, most folks haven't heard of this, there's a thing called the coal mining wars, or the Union Wars. Union Wars of Southeast Kentucky. During the right around the time of right as the Great Depression was kicking off, the coal industry was the biggest industry.
Okay.
And coal mining in Southeast Kentucky is a big thing. Well, there was a problem between the unions and the companies. And like, my father was born in a coal mine he was literally born on the kitchen table in a shack in a coal mining camp. And during the Union Wars, you literally had the unions and the workers fighting with each other, and both sides were absolutely wrong on like just about everything. Like, they were both terrible, and it got so bad that the federal government had to send in the National Guard to stop the fighting. I mean, it was a literal war. But
wow.
My grandfather traveled for work, leaving, which back then meant he'd be home about every 3-4 months, and he would drop off money, and he'd go back out traveling and doing what he did. Well, my father in that family was the oldest and a boy, so it was his responsibility to cover whatever else needed to be covered during that time as the Depression was kicking off. And his decision on it was, I'll be a scab truck driver for the coal company.
Oh my gosh.
And so the story I always tell about him is, I was about 11 years old, sitting in the living room floor, my dad in his little chair back behind me, his little easy chair. I'm sitting there collating, literally going through comics. and my dad, and he would do this. He had all these stories because he was so damned old. He had all these stories, and he, out of the blue, he'd be like, son, did I ever tell you about the time? And it'd be some story come. Well, this particular time, he says, son, did I ever tell you about the first time I had to shoot a man?
Oh no.
And I was like, you didn't tell me about the second one either. I was like,
we didn't talk about the second one.
The implications of that statement were enough.
Yeah.
And he said he was about my age, 11 years old, when he stepped up to be a scab truck driver in the Union Wars. And there was no laws on child work, child driving, things like that. It was all wide open. So they put him in a truck, and blocks on there so his feet could reach. And they told him where to go. He knew the area. They said, okay, you're going to take this load, you're going to deliver. they put a double barrel 12 gauge shotgun across his lap.
Oh no.
And said, if anybody tries to stop this truck, you mind your manners and you be polite. But if they open that door, you pull that trigger.
Oh no.
Because they knew what was going to happen. If they opened the door, they'd pull him out of there and he'd get killed.
Yeah.
So he said he was driving around some mountain down around Pikeville, and a log full of spikes gets thrown out in front of the truck. He had to stop.
Oh no.
And these guys wearing bandanas around their faces come down out of the woods.
Yeah.
Now this is like the road is here, and this is the way things are. There, you get a road around a mountain, and the slope down to it is steep. So these dudes come right off that slope out of the trees, and they're like, we're claiming this truck in the name of blah 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 blah, and he's like, I can't let you do that, sir. Please don't come any closer, sir. Please don't touch that door. And he said, man, open the door. Boom. Double barrel 12 gauge right to the chest. I mean, we're talking virtually point blank range. And he said he closed the door, hadn't even stopped the truck running, backed it up, pulled around the block, and took off. And when he finished telling me that story, he said, son, what's the moral of that story? I was like, I don't know, Dad. That's a crazy one. He looks at me, and I mean, he's having fun telling the story, but he looks at me dead serious and says, always get the job done.
Oh, God.
And
my gosh, what a work ethic.
That's why Rich wanted me on this book. Because he,
Angel.
2 years ago, I had a double stroke.
What's a double stroke? Like heart attack?
Ischemic stroke. It's when a blood clot forms somewhere in your bloodstream that goes to your brain and cuts off oxygen to a portion of your brain. Most of the time, people have a stroke. They become paralyzed. The most common place for it to happen is in your motor core.
Yeah, the left side.
And you'll become paralyzed on one side of your body.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, I was completely paralyzed on the left side. And the other book that I have in my little title there is Homestead. I was working on that at the time, or I just started working on that with Dirk Manning from Source Point Press. And I was actually doing page layouts on my iPad as they were putting me in the hospital. So, at one point, this nurse is putting tubes and shit in me. Putting tubes in me.
Yeah.
And I got an iPad on my lap, and I look over. I'm like, "Ma'am, could you try and not shake me? I'm trying to work here."
But it's like your dad. Always get the job done.
Always get the job done. Always.
Even if you're dying of sickness.
Yeah, I was in the hospital for 6 weeks, and I kept doing all my page layouts from that iPad while I was in the hospital. And then, I came out, and it's been, last week marked 2 years since it happened. And they told me I'd never walk again and I'd never use my left arm again.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I just finished swimming laps tonight. So.
Have y'all met me? Come on.
That's actually what my son, when the doctor said that, my son looked at the doctor and said, you have no idea who you're talking to.
Okay. Les, I am like you in a way where like work is always comes first no matter what work, right? But and I took pride in that. But for me it was kind of something kind of tragic happened from that, where one day I was working. At the time I was had 2 jobs. I was working in a travel industry in Hawaii and I was doing my art. And this was during my day shift working in the travel industry. And I suddenly get a call from my dad, and he never calls.
Oof.
And he said, and I'm very close to my grandfather, and he said, your grandfather is dying. Do you want to talk to him? And I said, I'm at work. In about 15 minutes, I'll get off, and then I'll call you. He's like, okay. And then as I was working, 5 minutes before my shift ended, I get another call from Dad, and he said, he passed away. And to this day,
Ooh,
I regret that decision.
that's harsh.
That really eats me up. So I realized sometimes when it's like that, your pride in your principles should not be in the way of saying goodbye to your loved ones. So
I can definitely
it still
understand that.
haunts me. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a rough one.
that's
Yeah,
not a. Yeah, it's really rough. But
yeah. When my father died, I was actually
yeah,
sitting by his bed
okay.
and holding his hand, and he had been in the hospital for about 2 weeks at that point, and he hadn't opened his eyes in days, and I like, and this is so crazy. He there's this moment that came where I saw him take this deep breath, and I knew something was up, and then his eyes opened.
Okay.
But it wasn't like panic or anything weird. Those eyes opened on this old man, and he gripped my hand a little tighter, and he looked me dead in the eye, and he said, "Son, be a good man."
Wow.
And looking me dead in the eye, like he purposefully closed his own eyes. Like he
Wow.
closed his eyes and then relaxed, and that was it. And it wasn't just what he said. Like I knew, I will believe to the day I die that he did that to show me, son, this is how you go out on your terms. He's like, I will close my own damned eyes.
Wow.
And the first night that I was in the hospital from the stroke, which I nearly died from the stroke, I went into the emergency room with a blood pressure of 284 over 183.
Oh no.
And I was joking with people. I was laughing. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm losing feeling over here. This is all weird. And
Yeah.
I'm like, but I can't have this. I got to get back to work, you guys.
Yeah. My
But
gosh. Yeah.
they put me in the hospital, and that night, I remember I had one of those dreams where you ever go to sleep, and then in your sleep you dream, but the dream is in the room that you fell asleep in. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of surreal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so I'm having this dream in that hospital room where I look up from my bed, and there's my father sitting in the chair across the room from me.
Oh no.
And in the dream, I just laid there, and like as soon as that hit, I was like, okay, I'm dreaming. I know I'm dreaming, but that's Dad, and I'm going to just enjoy this dream. And I laid there. Time is irrelevant in dreams. And then eventually in the dream, he looks over at me and goes, "Son, you're going to get through this."
Wow.
And I said, "How do you know?" And he said, "Because I made you."
Wow.
And
It's beautiful.
it's like the next morning when the nurses and people were coming in, I was joking with people. They're like, how can you be so positive? I was like, well, I was like, I had a conversation with somebody real important last night that just made me feel like I'm
Yeah.
probably going to be okay.
You're gonna be okay.
So yeah, it's been strange. It's really strange at this point
Yeah.
now. Like they've gone from saying I'd never walk again. Now they're like, we think you may get your entire arm and hand back next year. I'm like,
Wow.
you think? I'm like, I put in the work for it. You can see
Yeah.
all the guitars hanging behind me. These 2 years, the longest I've gone without playing guitar since I was a kid, since I was about 6 years
Wow.
old. So I have those hanging up, and every day I walk over here to my studio, into the studio, into my drawing area, right past those, and it's every day. I'm like, each one of them, I'm like, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. All of you. I'll be back. You just sit tight. These
Wow.
fingers will work again.
That's beautiful.
I just
You know what? We're close to our break time.
oh
But before anything, I keep forgetting this. I'm so sorry, Mr. Fish.
Oh,
You are auctioning your beautiful artwork right now, or starting at 70, right? And
Yeah.
that's the 11 by 17. And
Yep.
you're inking the whole thing. I can't believe that you did that since the beginning, and then you're already at the inking stage with all the backgrounds. That's
Well,
some fast work, man.
they don't call me fastest man in indie comics for nothing.
So, guys, please support Mr. Fish's Kickstarter. He only has 3 days left, and then we're gonna get to Les's wonderful Apocalypse Girl.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
still waiting on it. And
I'm bad. Like once you get with me on some stuff, time will just stop. I'm terrible at that.
it's because you're Scottish, was it? Irish. You're Appalachian. That's why.
Scots, Irish, Appalachian storytellers. Yep.
Anyway, guys, please, we will be back in a few minutes. So take a break.
Alrighty.
Sure, comic books are beautiful, but underneath, there's something more authentic and exciting. The original art. See the pencils, the lines, the shading, as if you were there in the studio watching the artist work. Getting a peek at comics' backstage is easy with the original art experience.
All right, Friday night, guys. Thank you for being here. To be doing anything, the fact that you're here means the world to me.
Nick's pieces are always value priced with your budget in mind, for the beginning collector to the veteran.
And this is gorgeous. You got Aquaman and Mira.
Join the original art experience with Nick and our friendly crew of regulars, even if it's just to enjoy the art. Fridays at 7. It's all part of the experience.
In a world where you hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
That'd be really great. Thanks.
Welcome back, guys. If you are enjoying our show, please support us. We are actually getting close to 100th episode, by the way.
Nice.
Super excited. I can't believe did you know, like, you just do everything only once a year, say 2 hours per day, right? And before you know it, you're on the hundreds of something. I mean, that says something. If for anybody who wants to accomplish anything, just like even put out of 1 week, 2 hours, do whatever your passion project is, you're already there in about 2 years. Like, amazing. That small thing makes a huge difference. So please, guys, like, also like, subscribe, follow us, and share. And for sharing, it's super easy. Just press the copy link. And just by doing the copy link and sharing, you can click that like 10 times. And that will like spike up the algorithm for us. So that's kind of a weird algorithm thing. Go do that, guys, for us. It's not just for me, it's for everybody.
Game the
Have
algorithm.
amazing guests like Les and Mr. Fish. Support all of them. Yeah. But anyway.
Good times.
So do you have the Apocalypse Girl?
Yeah, I've got
ready?
some Apocalypse Girl stuff up here. Let's
Do
see.
it. Wow, what is all that? Is that all your covers that you did?
No, this is the pages from volume 1.
You colored it yourself?
I wrote it, penciled, inked it, colored it, and did 6 covers.
He's Mr. Fishing it over there, man.
So
I told you, man, this is my guy. I'm falling in love with this dude. He is my favorite.
There you can see the dedication of my dad. So this book's dedicated to the memory of my father, Henry Gordon Garner, whose belief, guidance, and wisdom made me who I am, who taught me that can't is not an option and to always be building, working, practicing, and striving for greatness. You are why I do the things I do, Dad.
That's awesome.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I really felt it.
He is the one who turned me on to comics when I was a little kid. And I'll never forget, right around the time he told me that story, I was going through comics and I had one of these Nestle Quick back in the late 80s, had put out a replica on newsprint of Action Comics #1. And if since I've said my dad's age, he's watching me go through comics, and he's like, he reaches over and he pulls that out, and he's like, I remember when I had that. And I'm like, don't tell me that. he took me to see Star Wars when it first came out. And he loved it because it reminded him of the Flash Gordon Saturday black and white serials in theaters.
Oh, God.
So, and he was friends with the folks who owned the theaters in our county, and they babysat me for him. And so I saw Star Wars first run somewhere around 300 sometimes.
That's awesome.
Your dad, like, totally just a blue collar, just kind of guy, and I would never associate like he would be so open minded that he would support you in art and like Star Wars and fantasy and all that stuff. Fantasy.
He was, well, and part of that is when he was from. I mean, he didn't graduate high school, but he had, when he went to school, by 9th grade you were reading Latin. By 10th grade you had done calculus and trigonometry.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, he didn't graduate high school, and yeah, he was down in the bowels of Appalachia, but believe me, that man had an education second to none. I mean, it was just profound.
Oh yeah. My mom grew up
I'll
real
ramble
similar.
on about him for hours. I love the old man. There's some and what's funny about Apocalypse Girls, Apocalypse Girl is a book that happened. I had been out of the comic book business for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
And out of it as a page-to-page artist. What I did outside of comics, I started in comics when I was 19. And then I moved into doing storyboards, and I taught myself 3D modeling and animation in DOS. So
that's crazy.
Oh, you took the hard way.
That's the only way there was at the time.
Yeah.
But because of that, I ended up being a professional in 3D stuff for forever.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing about that is all the animation stuff and things I've done, it kept me on the periphery of comics, and I would get into animation projects. Like I did a bunch of animation projects that had Alan Grant as the writer.
Okay.
Which, was a big deal for me because it's like, dude, Judge Dredd, Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I worked with Alan for a few years. Worked with Doug Bradley, the guy who played Pinhead. I worked with Doug for, 13 years.
Oh my gosh.
And what was funny is they were out of a studio in England, and I was working remotely with these guys as a contractor. Really interesting stuff. So I mean, that's when you've got a 30-some year long career with the stuff, it's full of stories. So I'll cut that off there. We can talk again sometime if you like.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
But through that stuff, I developed the animation and 3D assets for a book from Brian Haberlin called Anomaly. And which was great. It was real special to me because that was the first professional work that my son, who was studying this stuff under me, I had homeschooled him, and then he was my apprentice, and that was his first professional work, was work with me on Anomaly, which, to my knowledge, was the first time there was an augmented reality app for a graphic novel, and he developed all the 3D for that.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff there. And while working on Anomaly, at one point I was having a conversation with Brian, Brian Haberlin. Some people these days know him and some don't.
Yeah.
But he used to do colors for Spawn. He was I mean, he was a pretty heavy hitting name back in the day. One day I'm having a conversation with him, and I was complaining. I was like, man, I really miss drawing comics. And I had just finished doing part of a project where I was drawing some character designs and things for him. And he's like, you're really damn good. He's like, why aren't you drawing comics? I was like, well, all the crap happened with Diamond in the mid 90s and everything kind of went to crap. And that's how I migrated over to this, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you want to draw comics? I was like, yeah, I really do. He's like, do it. He's like, do it. He's like, you're good enough. You should. Yeah. And I was like, huh. He's like, yeah, just come up with something you want to do. And he's like, self-publish it and just do it. Just do it. He's like, I guarantee you good things will come out of it. And I was like, huh. And I thought about it and I was like, man, when somebody of the stature of a Brian Haberlin says, yeah, you should be doing this. Well, you probably should be doing it. Yeah. And it had always been my intention. I had always kind of thought I would come back around to comics like in my retirement.
Yeah.
But I started playing around with Apocalypse Girl, the idea of this character, and it started out as a joke. Honestly, I was like, yeah, I'll do this thing, and I had this idea. I was like, Apocalypse Girl, that'll be fun. Yeah. I just kind of half-assed it, and then I was like, I should draw some pages of this, and I start drawing. These first 10 pages were the first things I really drew of it.
And just like penciling it in, not serious, just having fun.
Yeah, I was just doing the first 10 pages for fun. Yeah. But then I like the first 5-6 pages were written on the fly as I was drawing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, where's this going to go? Oh, this is where this goes next. And this is where this, and pretty soon it got to this point where it hit me. Like I had these pages with this visual going on and I started looking at them like, what's being said here? And then it hit me, wait, these are the visuals that we can see what's really happening. But what if the narrative is her telling you what she thinks happens because she wasn't there to see it?
Oh.
So page 10 is the hardest page I've ever had to draw.
That's trippy.
It's the really page where she finds her father dead. Yeah. And you realize at that point that all the narrative up to there is her thinking about what a badass he would have been during this fight and how terrible whatever it was that took him out must have been. Well, she's not wrong. But like you get the feeling of her hero worship for him out of it. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of moments where there's these narrative boxes are her mind and there'll be quotes in them and that's him speaking in her head. And a lot of the things that he says are things I remember versions of coming from my own dad.
Yeah.
So, and there's like this whole thing about, the whole reason I did those pages was how does she end up getting this hat and these guns and this, how does she end up looking like that? So it's just like, she takes them off the body of her father.
Yeah.
And it's like that page right there with that silhouette, that is the heart and soul of that entire book.
Dude.
Is that Papa would be disappointed if I let any of these things go to waste.
Man, that's like almost bit for bit a thing that I'm doing in one of my books too. Like, and it's not going to come up for a while. You just see that this dude has this really ragged pair of boots that he's always like duct taping and stuff and won't get a new pair. Yeah. But when you find out who gave him that pair and how much they meant to him and, why he won't get a new pair,
That's so sad.
Yeah.
So really,
I put out, when I was first shopping around for a publisher for this, I did a 10-page ash can preview sort of thing that I was giving away at a free comic book day at a shop in Cincinnati. And I'm sitting there doing sketches for people. And this one young lady picks it up, takes it, and starts walking around the store looking at other things. And I notice she's flipping through it as she's walking around. About 15 minutes later, she walks back over to me with tears in her eyes.
Oh.
And says to me, I just lost my father.
Oh no.
And it chokes me up to think about it, because I mean, it just, I've said, you know, this all came out, the collected version of it came out in 2020. And I've said for all these years that this has been around, that it took devising this. I mean, she's like physically like early 20 something, cute chick, you know, because I mean, cute chicks sell. But you know, it took devising this character of this young woman to be a voice for my own coping with the loss of my dad, because he died when I was 17.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like I that whole narrative she has, I have that narrative in my head. He's always with me. He's always there, and it's just, it's a thing.
It's still devastating, because imagine your dad is like the pillar of yourself. It's the foundation.
He was everything. He was,
and then suddenly that's taken away at not even like you're fully like mature. That's
you
gonna
didn't
really
get a full
shake
life
your,
there with him.
yeah, it shakes your security
my
of yourself.
and his wife, my foster mother, she and I did not get along at all. As soon as he passed, she said,
no.
You've got to the end of the school year and then you're on your own.
Oh God.
So he died.
That sounds like my ex.
So this is so terrible. He died on December 22nd, 1991. And because of like family traditions and things, they had this thing about someone dies, they're buried 3 days later.
Oh.
So we buried him on Christmas Day.
Oh man.
And it just absolutely bizarre. Yeah, buried him on Christmas Day, and then less than 6 months later, I was homeless.
Oh my God.
So
it's like that's what I'm talking about. Internally, your core is shaken, right? So you're insecure already.
Oh yeah.
It's shattered. Your sense of self is shattered. And then also physically representing that your environment is now taken away from you.
Yeah.
So now
I literally
doubled.
I was told I could take however much stuff I could fit in the car he'd given me.
But still, that's like
that's not much. I had a box of comic books, a guitar, and my art supplies, and like 4 changes of clothes.
Oh my God.
And a few months later, I was in Moorhead, Kentucky at the time, which is a college town, and there was a girl who I had met there whose family was from Connecticut.
Yeah.
And she had an aunt named Rita who was from New Jersey.
Yeah.
And they're getting ready to leave at the end of that semester. Then Rita comes down to take her back to Connecticut. And so they come over to where I was staying, and I've got paper out, because back then, you know, there's no internet, and I was getting ready to like start sending off submissions for comic book companies. And Rita comes in, and see if I can still do the voice. She's like, "Oh my God, what is all this stuff everywhere?" And I'm like, it's what I do. It's what I want to do. She's like, "Wow, this is really good stuff. What are you doing down here? You should come up north with us." And I'm like, "Up north?" She's like, "Yeah, we live about 30 minutes out of the city." And then she's like, "You know, you're New York." And I'm like, "What would I do?" She's like, "You a big guy? You a farm boy?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm a freaking farm boy." She's like, "Come work for my husband, Billy. He got a construction company. He'll put you to work." I was like, so I can come up north if I'll work construction? Done. The few things that I had amassed by that point, I left them all behind, chucked my art supplies in the car, and 13 hours later, I was in Connecticut.
Wow.
And I was 19, and I would do Monday through Thursday on construction sites, moving rock by hand. And that was it, moving these like, it's called a riprap job, where you're moving these 8 to 12 pound rocks that are kind of ball shaped and placing them to fight erosion. And I do that Monday through Thursday for 12 hours a day, work on my portfolio at night, get about 3 or 4 hours sleep. And then Friday, I'd get up and hitch a ride to the train station in Brewster, New York, not far from us. And on that, I'd get on the train, and I'd get off that train in Grand Central in Manhattan early Friday morning with my portfolio and a backpack full of art supplies and a sketchbook.
Yeah.
I'd spend all day Friday hitting every office I could find, every agent, anybody that could possibly give me a job, pestering the crap out of them and getting nowhere.
Yeah.
And then when the offices would close up, I would hike down to Central Park, pull out the sketchbook, and start walking around doing sketches of tourists and selling the sketches. And then I'd do that all night Friday night. Usually catch a nap on a bench somewhere around 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Then spend all Saturday in Central Park hustling sketches, all night hustling sketches, catch a nap here and there on benches or in a doorway or something. And then Sunday morning, I do it for a while. And then on Sunday, my reward to myself for having done it, I would walk down the street. You walk down, I think it's 42nd Street. You walk down from there to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and History. And I would go pay my way in. That's where I'd get my lunch, get my coffee. And then I would just spend all day in that museum studying, just taking a sketchbook and copying from things. And I did that for a little under a year before I finally got my first professional art gig, which was drawing. I was drawing the Energizer Bunny for a coloring book. And, for an agency, for an ad agency.
Yeah.
And that job turned into another job, turned into a connection. And then while that's going on, I'm still trying to get into comics. And I met back then, he wasn't as huge. You know, he was on his climb up. I met Joe Quesada.
Oh, yeah.
And Joe, I think Joe and I haven't talked in 25 years. So I know he kind of sort of remembers me. I've poked at him a couple times online, but I actually thanked him online once, and he was like, "Oh my God!" And he's like, "You know, it's good to know you're still doing stuff." Yeah. But Joe actually was the one who gave me my first break. And when I say gave me my break, what he did is there was like an independent company who had an editor he was friends with, and he's like, "I want you to go here, talk to him." And there's a big irony coming in that story. So I talked to this guy. The gentleman's name was Joe Martin.
Okay.
And he worked for Caliber Comics at the time. And when Joe handed me his business card, I looked at it, and the address on it was Florence, Kentucky. At that point, when I got to Connecticut, my accent was way thicker than this. It was thick, and I mean, I got made fun of constantly. It was.
Oh man, they love making fun of our accents.
What's a Kentucky accent?
Eastern Kentucky accent.
Yeah. What's it
Everything
like?
starts getting sharper, starts getting real fast. We start to use phrases like "gim gom" and "cattywampus."
Oh, that's like Tom Sawyer language. Like, really?
That's exactly Tom Sawyer language. Yeah.
Do y'all fixing to over there?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh man, people give me hell about fixing to, and I'm like, what are you fixing to do?
Oh
like,
my
I am
God.
preparing myself mentally and physically for the task ahead. I am making checklists in my brain. I am fixing myself to do the task ahead.
I'm fixing to drop a hammer on something. Yeah,
Which did you?
Oh,
So that
it's funny.
Yeah.
We my ex-wife had trouble getting directions when we were down in Kentucky once because
Oh no.
she asked somebody and she's like, honey, she's like, this old man said I needed to turn right at the end of the bottom. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be that little road down there at the other end of that field. And she's like, how did you know what that means? I was like, okay. I was like, see that field? That field is a large flat area next to a mountain. That's called the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. No.
And they will give you directions based on a bottom or and they'll tell you, watch out for that road over there because it gets all gone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And the worst thing is when they will just make up words out of nowhere just to illustrate something. It's great.
Oh man,
and they expect you to be paying attention to the context, so you kind of figure it out.
Wow, it's like everyone is a natural Shakespearean there.
They
make their own words.
They
creative.
they really do. They really do. Well, I mean that storytelling is like a deep part of Appalachian culture. Like there are big festivals for Appalachian storytellers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's just like for me as a kid, my dad had, after my grandfather died, he got this little country store that he inherited from him. And I used to sit around on the porch of this store listening to old men tell stories all the time.
Oh my God.
I love
it was great.
Oh,
God,
I was so
it.
blessed to grow up around some great storytellers and just sat at their feet listening and learning.
Mm-hmm.
Man, turn a trip to the hardware store into an amazing epic tale. It was a beautiful thing.
Every spring, my dad would throw a big fish fry. And if you've never been to a country fish fry,
oh man,
you're missing out. That's when you get someplace that's out in the middle of nowhere. There'll be some little location like a country store or a church or something. And like pretty much all the folks from around, maybe 10, 20 mile radius.
Everyone comes up.
They'll all go fishing and they'll all show up with coolers full of whatever they've caught. And my favorite was always the frog legs.
Oh, son.
Oh, dude.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, man. My dad would dredge these frog legs in this cornmeal batter with a lot of pepper in it.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
drop that in a skillet, about a 2-inch deep skillet full of either beef tallow or
oh man,
lard.
man, y'all doing it right.
It's like,
the
that is the only. I'm like not to sound all modern hippie on it, but this seed oil stuff's for the birds, man.
Oh man, so much flavor.
You got to be cooking in either pig fat or beef tallow.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle is saying this episode is way too southern for Mog, but talking food will get her back. Yes,
oh man,
I got you. And actually, Kyle also said, yeah, Joe Martin is J.M. Martin and still working.
Nice. I should look him up. I ain't talked to Joe in forever. I don't think I've talked to Joe since I was about 21 years old. That's more than half my life ago now.
Wow.
So I turned 51 next month.
Oh wow. I turned 50 in May.
Anyway,
I'm telling you, dude, I love you, man. We gotta hang out.
Actually,
we got so much stuff in common. I'm like, wait a minute, is that my story? No, that's just a whole lot like my story.
That's fun. Rich is gonna jump my case. He's gonna be like, you talked about everything but Angel Hunter last.
No, you did.
But you got people interested and they're paying attention. They can go to the link.
Anyway, what's interesting about that quick, we're gonna take a break, but let's that angel thing. It's an angel hunter. Is angel hunter?
Yeah, angel
which is
hunter.
Interesting because usually there's always like demon hunter, right? But this whole story is like they're hunting angels.
Sort of.
Like they're bad.
In this setting, angels aren't necessarily good, and they're not necessarily bad. Just like the demons aren't necessarily good or bad. Angel and demon are more demarcations of where they're from.
You know what? This is so interesting. Let's take a few last break and then let's talk about this.
Cool.
So, the show is called The Geek Chat. And really, there's just a couple of geeks.
I'm Rich.
I'm Des.
And we are your hosts for this weekly guide into comic bookery and all the geeky stuff that goes with it.
And that pretty much says it all. They talk about the latest movies and shows.
Okay, I'll be completely honest with you. Overall, D+ movie.
So the end. Did you know who that is?
That's She-Ra, yeah.
Yes.
The new #1 comics of the week.
We rep Samuel Jackson and we rep Mace Windu.
I passed on this. I was like...
No regrets.
No regrets. I really wanted to like this book. I really did. Like, I really did.
And just chat with each other. And with you.
Oh, Daniel says, I dosed off with the first one. I have zero interest in the Joker Harley ship, not Harley herself. Enjoy, not for me. Yeah, this movie's gonna be rough for me to sit through, I'll be honest.
The Geek Chat, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Just a couple of honest geeks.
Let's be honest. Come on.
And that is why people watch us, because we're honest.
Giving their honest opinions.
And the thing you always have to remember about the internet is everyone has an opinion, and they all suck.
Part of the experience.
Twitch, it's not just what happens when you have too many energy drinks anymore. Check out our content over there, too.
Okay. Angel
right.
Hunter. Let's do Richard
There
justice.
you go. There you go.
Okay.
Let me pop over there and scroll back a couple pages on it.
You know, okay, first thing first, I know you don't really like manga, so you said that in the beginning. But I think
I like manga. I really wasn't interested in drawing manga.
Oh my god.
And Rich hammered on me over and over about it. Was constantly talking about this story, and he wanted me to draw the book. I was like, I really don't want to do manga. He's like, please do manga. He's like, please do an adapted. He's like, adapt manga to something you would do. I was like, well, all right, I'll do that. And then around that same time, my son introduced me to the manga Berserk.
Oh my god.
And I was like, okay, I'm in. That's pretty much it. Because stylistically, when I'm doing inks, I lean towards I have my biggest influence is Bernie Wrightson.
Oh man.
Just Bernie is, I mean, like, you know, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost of comics of Jack Kirby, Neil Adams, and Bernie Wrightson for me. There you go.
Neil Adams, okay.
Yeah. So, and when I looked at Berserk, and my son had shown me something, I can't remember where it was, but there was like an interview or something where the guy behind Berserk mentioned Bernie Wrightson, mentioned that he was a fan of Bernie. And I'm like, crap, I can see it. And then all of a sudden, a number of things I shouldn't say I didn't quite get, a number of things that were possible dawned on me that hadn't dawned on me yet. And I was like, oh, I see. And it's funny because I've been on the periphery of manga. Like, I did 3D models for a guy who was my best friend until he died, a guy named Tony Kurazumi Luke. He was half British, half Japanese dude who worked for Kodansha for a long time.
Okay.
And he would hire me to do 3D models for things that he would use the 3D models that he would basically rotoscope over so they'd stay consistent. And then he did the animation studio in England that I worked with, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So it's like, again, I've been on the periphery of this stuff forever. It was through Tony that I worked with a guy named Akira Nirasawa. And Nira had done, I was technical director, taking Nira's designs and turning them into animatable 3D figures for animators in their studio. Nira had previously worked on Devilman and Devil Girl. for Go Nagai. And so like it's funny. My wife is Filipino, and she says I'm more Asian than she is. She's like, you're the most Asian hillbilly I've ever seen.
My husband's Filipino. My husband's Filipino.
Oh.
Wait, isn't Fish? Your wife is no. Your wife is.
No, my two oldest boys are Filipino. They're adopted.
Okay. Yeah, we're all Filipino friendly here.
I'm telling you, man, Filipino food, love it.
Yeah.
Sinigang.
Do you eat the dinuguan?
Dude, I love dinuguan.
It's so delicious, right?
I love that stuff. And I mean, there's even people in her family who think I'm weird because I like it. I'm like, y'all missing out, especially when it's like good and spicy, really spicy.
Oh yeah, they put like these green chilies, and there's like a kick to it.
Her mom is 81, and every time we show up at the house, she is so happy to see me because she's like, oh, and she starts shuffling around, wants to cook and everything, and it's just it's the most adorable thing ever. And she knows, it's like she's like, oh, big American man, you eat, and she loves it. It's like I'll put in 10 pounds just for a visit. It's terrible.
How tall are you? How tall?
I am little over 6'1". Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Fish was really tall when I first.
Oh yeah,
saw
I'm
him.
6'4.5".
I was like, giant.
That's like the size of my brothers.
We ain't supposed to get this big. My feet are like size 16. If I sprain my ankle, I will invariably like get a hairline fracture in my other foot, overcompensating on the other leg, because like feet just aren't supposed to be this big. And
you said you got some Appalachia roots?
Well, I mean, I'm country as hell, and definitely got the Scotch Irish in the family line.
That's
from Arkansas. Like,
oh man, Arkansas!
When you asked my grandma where we came from, she's like, we came from Mississippi. I'm like, no, before that. She's like, we ain't no foreigners. We didn't come from nowhere else. We came from Mississippi. I'm like, all right, Mama. I ain't gonna. She's way too mean for me to fight with.
Oh my gosh, man, you're doing the thing again. You're doing your autistic thing where all the detail of the bricks.
Oh yeah, it's the fun part, and that's what I get to do on this show. I get to do actual traditional art again, and have fun with all the textures and stuff I can get out of the brush and the pen.
Yeah,
that's something. I'll show you something else real interesting, real quick. Hardly anybody's gotten to see this.
That scene there, that was. Oh yeah, that's a
2-page spread.
That like a forest and a castle thing. My gosh!
This is a school in that place that's decaying, and then this is a forest scene, and this is a castle on a shoreline that's getting knocked down.
So beautiful.
I really liked this character. This was fun. I didn't mean to open that page. Stop it. Go away.
So
but yeah,
that's some beautiful stuff.
It's just like old Berserker type of level.
Yeah, and then I really like this sequence that comes up here with this. There's these two characters who together their names are Azaraza. It's Azza or Azar and Raza. It's spelled Azarraza. So it's the same thing forward and backwards. So one is Azza and the other one's Raza. Something like that.
Cool.
It's kind of funky, but it's brother and sister who share a body.
Oh,
so
that's
like
wild.
Starts off with the cute girl there, and then like she gets this stressed out moment, and then she changes, and so whenever they change, it goes from the girl who has the white hair on both sides to the boy who has the long. I was like, it's kind of an homage to Glenn Danzig. He's got a devil lock, kind of like Harlock. And then what's called Harlock? got
Yeah,
that long
Harlock.
strip.
It reminds me of Captain Harlock.
Yeah, Captain
Right.
Harlock.
Yeah.
Captain Harlock is why Glenn Danzig did the Devil Lock.
Oh.
Glenn Danzig is one of the biggest collectors of anime cells
I didn't know
on the
that.
planet. Like he's very serious about that.
Oh my
But
gosh.
so yeah, this was some fun stuff. I really got into doing the toning on these, and that kind of opened some
Yeah.
stuff up.
Don't you just love it? Don't you just love just black and white after
Oh
doing
my
color?
god.
I really love black and white.
Black and white's the best.
Oh, this
That's
gets gross right here.
Yeah, okay. That's like what? This is rated R, you would say? Or
Whew,
no,
it's
not really.
it's spicy.
PG-13.
Yeah, it's spicy.
Okay.
Little demon babies go splat.
hmm
But
I thought my stuff was pretty family friendly until I actually started looking through it and looking at like, you know, how they rate stuff, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of blood and a lot of like guts on the outside. Like and I
yeah.
had to change my rating.
So like later on in Apocalypse Girl, it gets kind of. Oh, I love this sequence. I can rifle through this stuff so fast though, because you know it's funny how much my art has changed since then. I mean, it's 20 from 20. It was actually all finished in 2018, so it's going on 10 years now, and my art has changed
Yeah.
dramatically.
Like compared to what
Oh
that's
yeah.
the most recent one is your Angel Hunter, right? That
No, actually, Angel Hunter is not my most recent. I was about to show you my most recent thing that I'm working on that should be doing a Kickstarter in a few months, shortly after Angel Hunter, and I'll just show you this first cover to it. It's a
so
book
it's
called Brides.
oh, I thought it was gonna be whoa.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So,
Wow.
and that is traditional airbrush.
Oh, airbrush, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the if you could see to my left here, I've built an extension onto the top of this big desk I have, where I have a drafting board over here and special setup where I can pull my airbrushes up over it and be able to do everything and not have to have both hands. And
yeah.
it took me about 2 years to get that set up like that, to really engineer it and figure it out. So that's been one of the more interesting parts of things for me in the last couple of years. Is like I can't type. Can't. Left hand doesn't work. I mean, those fingers, that's as much movement as those fingers have right now. So there's no typing. So everything I do has to be voice type, and anything that I'm going to do on the key that requires keys, I found a Chinese source where I could get pedals that hook up via USB that have no coding in them, and you program them. Inventors use them for things. So I ordered a bunch of these, and I just coded them for all kinds of different keys. So I hit them with my feet so that I could keep working.
You know,
That's
I'm
brilliant.
very yeah, genius by the way. And I always like to study
Nice.
the brain. And I remember reading about this neurosurgeon, brain surgeon, right? And she wrote a memoir because she ended up having the thing that you told me, the clot to the brain,
Stroke,
the
ischemic stroke.
Exactly, that one.
I may know who you're talking about, not personally, but
It's a lady, and then she ended up having the whole left side paralyzed. Wow,
is it
that's so
a
beautiful.
blonde lady from Norway?
Yes.
I think. Yeah, I actually found her stuff while I was in the hospital and started reading it or watching it.
Did you relate? Like, cause she said first of all, like because everything was very for her, like her whole personality changes that, and the first language she could understand, didn't even know how to speak or even spell nothing. But the only language when she woke up and then was the language of emotion. And she said she was like a dog, so she would read energy, the vibe of people. And the first thing that she realized, she felt that she could communicate was this person's good, this person's bad, I don't like. And then the first feeling of complete, like somebody really loved her and was hugging her, and she felt happy. Like she felt suddenly like I feel good, and then turns out it was a mom. But she lost even the memory of who her mom was. Like it was that bad for her. And then slowly she built it up. Was it like that? I'm so curious. Like you came out of that. Like,
well, there are different kinds of strokes. There's ischemic. There's hemiplegic. There's a couple different kinds, and the most common is ischemic, which I had a double ischemic, meaning because of a condition that I'd had when I was younger. When the first stroke hit, I didn't think it was a stroke. I thought, oh, I'm just really tired. I need to go lay down, which is the worst thing you can do. So I went and laid down, and when I woke up a few hours later, apparently the first stroke had ended, and I was in the middle of the second one.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, honey, get me to the doctor.
Yes.
Oh, man.
So I went, and once I realized that it was a stroke, I mean, I've heard enough and understood. I understood enough about what it is. There were certain things that I started to do that, I mean, I thought, well, these may work, they may help, they may not, but it's better than doing nothing. And when they were putting me in the emergency room, I had a short sleeve shirt on, and they thought they were about to put me in a padded room because my hand that would work, I would reach over and slap the crap out of my left arm. And I would reach down and slap my left leg really hard. And I would grab handfuls of skin and just pinch and grind it on both of them. And somebody was like, why are you doing that? And I said, nerves. I was like, if these nerves are getting cut off from that brain, I was like, nerves go both ways. And if I send a signal up those nerves, hopefully my brain will latch onto it when it calls home, and it won't forget that it's there. And the neurologist that I got 2 days later came in and checked my feet and pinched them. And I was like, what are you doing, doc? Why are you pinching me? That hurts. He's like, you can feel that? I was like, yeah. And he was looking through the notes they'd made on everything. And he's like, huh. And I was like, yeah. I was like, nerves call home. Keep them things going when stuff's happening, you won't lose the feeling. And it worked. And he said, I've never seen that before. I was like, well, now you have. So there. So and there was another thing that I did because I was terrified that I would.
Thank you, Ilya. 69. It's
Plus
starting
one.
to 70.
Plus one.
I don't. Okay. Oh, 69 plus 1. Okay, Ilya. Good job. You can do math. Continue. Continue.
I was terrified that I would lose my cognition.
Yeah.
And so I speak a couple different languages, and as they were putting me as they were taking me in, I started answering some of their questions in Russian. And they were like, what? I'm like, nah, I'd answer in Russian, then I'd say it in English, and they're like, what was that? And I was like, oh, I'm just doing it to keep my brain moving.
Yeah.
Just to keep it flowing. Or like I would, when the PT came in, I would do my repetitions. Anything that was repetitive, I would count it in Japanese. So
okay,
it was just like,
well,
you
know what? We have to have you back because there's so much to say, and I'm gonna make sure Fish is here with you when you're here.
Oh yeah, because I mean they got a lot in common, man. I've had to learn to work around my disability. Like that's the reason I'm doing comics now this late in life, because it's the only freaking thing I can do from my recliner, because like I can't freaking walk. I can't do carpentry anymore. I can't do all the other stuff I used to do.
It's funny, man. Where I live, I've got some acreage here in Western Kentucky. So we've got a little house, and then there's the building here that's my studio, and there's a barn down the way from us, and we've got acreage here that I go hunting on. And it wasn't until after the stroke that I was like, you know what? I need to buy myself a table saw. And my wife is like, she's like, what the hell are you doing? I was like, I got stuff I'm gonna build. It's all right. She's like, you've only got one hand. I'm like, that's all I need.
Oh man, I can get so much done with one hand. Woo, son.
Okay, let's not go anymore. It can get weird. So
I wasn't even thinking all that, man. Y'all,
oh, Lord,
man.
Okay.
Leave it to Mog to get weird.
All right, you know, even Kyle is saying
it's
next
not
time.
that kind of wood, Mog.
Yeah. Come on, like one hand and the wood. Come on, it's kind of obvious where you're going.
Oh,
so next time, Mel and Mog can't be here. Kyle said we'll do big beard guys. So
Oh yeah, man, we can come on and have us a time.
I just cut my beard about 4 days ago. This thing was out to about a year.
Oh man, mine is oh man, this thing's so.
But anyway, we do have to end this. Kyle, let's run the thing. Is this going to be a digital or an actual book that you're giving away?
Oh, I'm going to ship out an actual book.
Okay, so
I'm going to ship out this actual physical copy right here. I'm going to sign it and bag it and ship it out.
Right, let's run it. Hashtag Green Zone. There's 3 entries. Who's it going to be? Oh my God!
I thought for sure it was going to be Stevie B.
I thought it was going to be Stevie B.
I'm shipping stuff to him every week anyway, but okay. Good deal. Stevie Vendetta, got to get your address.
And, sorry, but international, is not, that you have to discuss. I think Steve Vendetta, you're from Canada, right? So.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that you gotta discuss.
Oh, no.
So we did say, I keep forgetting to say the disclaimer is we cover everything inside US, but outside international, we can't cover that. The cost is too expensive. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. Where can we follow you, Les?
I'm probably most active on Facebook of all places, which is really annoying because I hate Facebook, but it's because Messenger works really well for me.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody and their brother are on it. Facebook, X. If you plug my name in anywhere, you'll find it, and you'll often find it associated with a thing called 661 Media. That's the official name of my studio. Technically, it's officially licensed as 661 Publishing now because I've migrated from other media into publishing. So there, blah, blah, blah. But you'll see SIXUS1 on anywhere you see that. That's me.
Okay.
And so just plug my name in pretty much anywhere. I come right up. ArtStation. I need to use Instagram a lot more, but
yeah,
I'm kind of like a schizophrenic Luddite because there's some things that I stay way out on the edge of technology with, and there's lots of stuff that I'm like, no, just no. Like social media, I despise it.
Yeah.
Only reason why is because I got to be. So
we have to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a bid on Mr. Fish. So the winner is Ilya. So thank you, Ilya.
Thank you very much.
Next week, we're going to be back for sure. Let's pray that Mel gets better. Also, Kyle, I hope you recover soon. And Mr. Fish, I hope you really recover. And Les, you stay healthy.
Doing my best.
We've got to get you back.
I would love to come back. I got plenty of things going on.
Yes.
So, quick rundown before we get off here. Coming up is, of course, Angel Hunter. Then in April, we're launching a Kickstarter for a special project that is called Dr. Van Meter's Forbidden Cthulhu Tarot. It's a tarot deck that I've designed that is unlike any other. Soon after that, we'll be launching for brides. And then coming up later this year, I'm doing a book with Dirk Manning again called Frog Sweat.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Think Lovecraft in the Bayou.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, guys, before we forget, let's not forget Fish. He's got only 3 days left for Kickstarter, so please.
Yeah. 3
like,
days
share,
left.
and
Go
comment.
check it out. GoMrFish.com right there. I'll take you to it.
Fish. That's great.
All right.
Go Mr. Fish.
Yeah, Go
Guys.
Fish was taken. Go figure.
Guys,
I'm
let's
typing
end
it
this.
in right now.
Let's
End it.
this. Okay.
Goodbye.
Adios.
We could talk
Goodbye,
afterwards.
cruel world.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.